I take the last train most nights because my shift ends when the city's already gone quiet. There's a stretch from the station to my building, maybe 10 minutes, that has no reason to feel like anything. Closed shops, a long fence, one underpass. I'd walked it so many times I'd stopped looking at it. And the thing about a walk you've stopped looking at is that you don't notice the night somebody starts walking it with you. It was late, past 1. I came up the station steps and the platform behind me was empty, except for one other person who'd gotten off the same car. A tall man, thin, hood up, hands in his pockets. Nothing wrong with that. People take the last train. I went left out of the station toward home, the way I always go, and a few seconds later, so did he. At first, he was well back, and I told myself we just happened to live the same direction. But I do a thing on that walk. I clock my own pace off the shop windows, and in the glass I watched him close it. Not rushing, just eating the gap, a little at a time, until he wasn't behind me anymore. He was beside me, matching me stride for stride, close enough that I could hear him breathing. And then he spoke. Not a greeting, not hey. He turned his head and said, flat, like he was reading it off a card, "You a smart girl?" Not asking, stating it almost, waiting, like there was a right answer and he already knew whether I had it. I didn't answer. I kept my eyes forward and my legs moving, and I pretended I hadn't heard, which on an empty street, 6 inches from a man, is its own kind of lie you both know is a lie. He let it sit. And then he said it again, exactly the same flatness. "You a smart girl." Closer this time. My whole body wanted to run, but you don't run from a thing that's already walking at your shoulder. You just teach it that you're prey, and you give it the start. So I did the only thing my gut handed me, and I still don't fully know why it was the right call. I went stupid. I let my face go slack and my mouth go loose, and I started babbling, half words, nonsense, a giggle in the wrong place, like the lights were on, but nobody was driving. He asked it a third time, and there was something underneath it now. Impatience. Like I was failing a test he needed me to pass. And that's when the shape of it landed on me, walking that dark stretch with my mouth running gibberish. He didn't want a smart girl. A smart girl knows to scream, knows the cameras, knows the one house with a light on, knows how to be a problem. He was checking whether I'd be easy, whether I was worth the trouble. And I was failing it on purpose. So I leaned all the way in. I turned and looked at him with the dumbest, emptiest, friendliest face I have ever made at a human being. And I said something that didn't answer anything. Asked him if the trains were done. Asked it twice, slow, like I couldn't hold the thought. I made myself boring. I made myself like trying to get a straight answer out of a wall. The whole time my keys were a fist of metal in my pocket, and my heart was somewhere up in my throat. And he stopped walking. Just stopped. I felt the space beside me open up where his shoulder had been. He made a sound, a short scoff, disgusted. The sound you make when something you'd picked up turns out to be broken and not worth the carry. And he peeled off, crossed the street at an angle, hood still up, hands still in his pockets, and walked off the way a man walks when his night just got more annoying. Not scared, not running, inconvenienced. I did not slow down. I got to the corner where my bus sometimes still runs, and by some miracle it was there, idling, doors open, one driver and no one else. I got on. I sat down hard. And as the bus pulled out, I made the mistake of looking through the window, and he was right there on the sidewalk, level with the glass, looking up at me as we passed. Not surprised, not finished, just noting where I'd gone. I've turned that walk over for years, and the part that stays isn't the question. It's that he had a question at all. He wasn't deciding whether to do something. He'd already decided that. The only thing left to pick was who. And smart was never about clever. Smart meant able to make it cost him something. So the bright ones, the sharp ones, the ones who'd hand him a quick, clever answer to prove they weren't scared, those are the ones who passed the test. I lived because I failed it. I don't take that exit anymore. I get off a stop early now, where there's a taxi rank and a window with a person behind it, and I walk the long way under the lights. It adds 15 minutes. I'll take the 15 minutes. Because the worst thing you can be on that walk home is worth the trouble. This was years ago. A long walk home through the dead end of a city after a night out. 2, maybe 3 in the morning. A thin rain, the kind that turns every streetlight into a smear. I'd had a couple, but I was clear enough to notice the man with the umbrella. He was on the far side of the street, maybe 10 meters back, big, an umbrella low over his head. And his face was turned toward me, not glancing, turned, held that way as he walked. I told myself a man can walk the same direction as you in the rain. So I tested it. I sped up, he sped up. I slowed, he slowed. Across 2 empty blocks, he kept the exact gap, the exact side, the exact angle of his head. Like I was on a string he was letting out. Running was the obvious move, and it was the wrong one. I didn't know these streets well enough to know where they dead-ended, and he clearly did. You don't sprint blind into someone else's map. So instead, I made myself think. Up ahead, the road opened into a roundabout with a big raised planting in the middle. Trees, shrubs, an island of dark in all that wet light. Something a person could pass behind. Something that, for about 4 seconds, would put solid cover between him and me. So here's the insane thing I did. When I came around the planting and dropped out of his sightline, I didn't keep going the way the road wanted me to. I cut hard, doubled back along the blind side of the island, and crossed over to his side of the street, behind him. My whole body screaming that I was walking toward the thing I should be running from. But I wanted one thing. I wanted to come out behind him and see what a man does when his prey doesn't come out the far side. I came around low and quiet on his side, and I found him. He'd stopped. Not where I'd left him behind me. He'd come up the road past the roundabout while I was hidden, overtaken the spot I'd vanished from, and planted himself ahead of where I should have walked out. Standing in the middle of the wet pavement, umbrella tipped back off his face now, and he was looking ahead, down the long empty stretch where I would have been if I'd kept walking the way I was supposed to. Scanning it, patient, unbothered, waiting for me to surface up ahead the way the road said I had to. And that emptied the blood out of me faster than a chase ever could. Because a man following you is one thing. You can feel it, you can run. But this man wasn't following me. He was reading me. He knew the route. He knew there was nowhere to cut off it. He'd stopped bothering to keep me in sight because he didn't need to. The street only went one way, and he was simply waiting for it to deliver me to the far end. He was so sure of where I'd be that losing sight of me didn't worry him at all. I don't know what came out of me. A shout, not a word, just noise, loud, ugly, the sound of a thing that was supposed to stay quiet. He spun, and for 1 second I saw him register it, that I was behind him, that the map had broken. And I did not wait to see his face do anything else. I was already gone, the other way, back the way we'd come, feet slapping the wet, no plan but away. I ran until I hit a main road with night buses and a taxi rank and a man selling food from a cart, and I stood in the middle of all that light and noise, shaking. I got a cab. I gave a corner 2 streets from mine, not my door. Old habit I didn't know I had until that night. I never saw him again. No umbrella in the mirror, no one on my street. He didn't chase me into the light. Men like that don't. The light isn't where the work gets done. What stays isn't the size of him, or the rain, or the umbrella. It's how calm he was, standing in that empty road, watching the place I wasn't yet. I only got out because I did the one thing the map didn't allow for. I went backward. He wasn't following me down that street. He was already standing at the end of it. I used to close a bar downtown, which means I got off around 3 in the morning and walked home through a part of the city that was already done for the night. I had a back route, quieter, faster, fewer drunks. I'd done it for months. It felt like mine. That's the trap with a route you trust. You stop reading it, and someone who reads it for a living counts on exactly that. That night, my phone was dead. I'd run it flat at work and never charged it. No flashlight, no map, no calling anyone, just me and the walk. I wasn't worried. I knew every corner. And then I came around the last one before the long, quiet stretch, and the sidewalk ahead of me was blocked. 4 or 5 men, drunk, loud, spread across the whole sidewalk and spilling into the road. Not menacing exactly, just a wall of strangers I'd have to walk straight through, alone, at 3 in the morning. I slowed. I was doing the math on crossing over, going around, when a car at the curb beside me rolled its window down. A taxi, lit sign, the whole thing. The driver leaned over and said, easy and kind, "You don't want to walk into that. Get in. I'll take you out of here. On me." I said no. First instinct, automatic, I don't get in cars. And he didn't push. That's the part that worked on me. He just shrugged, nodded at the drunk men like, "Your call," and waited. Patient, fatherly almost. And I looked at that wall of strangers in the dark. And I looked at this calm man in a marked cab offering to lift me right past them. And I made the reasonable choice. I made the choice anybody would make. I got in. I gave him my address and he pulled out smooth, away from the men. And for about a minute I felt the relief flood in. Smart, safe, handled. He chatted, long shift, dead on my feet, the usual. And then we came up on my street and he drove past it. I said that was my road, back there. And without missing a beat, warm as ever, he said, "I know, just finding somewhere to turn around. One way's round here." But he didn't turn. He took us further, off the residential grid entirely, past the last of the houses and into an industrial stretch. Shuttered units, no lights in any window, no other cars. The kind of place that has no reason to be on the way to anywhere. And he kept talking. The same easy voice, like the scenery out the window wasn't changing into nowhere. My phone was a black mirror in my hand. Dead. No one knew where I was. No one knew I'd even gotten in a car. He turned down a service road, and it ended. A dead end. A wall, a chain fence, the headlights filling up with nothing. And he stopped the car and put it in park. And the easy talk just stopped. He didn't say anything. He didn't turn around. He sat there in the quiet with his hands on the wheel, looking at me in the mirror, waiting for me to start being afraid. Because that's the part they want. That's the part that's for them. And something in me went very, very still. I think I understood in that second exactly what the drunk men had been. Not a danger he saved me from, a reason to get me in the car. He'd put himself right next to the one thing on that walk that scared me and offered to be the safe version of a stranger, so that I'd choose the locked room over the open street. The protector and the trap were the same man. So I didn't scream and I didn't grab the door. I made my voice as flat and bored as his had been kind, and I looked at the back of his head in that mirror, and I said, "Well, this looks like a perfect spot for you to turn around." Even, calm, like I was reminding him of something we'd both agreed on, like the dead end was his problem, not mine, like I had nowhere I needed to be and all night to wait while he figured it out. And I watched it land. In the mirror, his eyes changed. Whatever he'd been waiting for me to do, cry, beg, fight, freeze, I hadn't done it. I'd handed it back to him like a man who'd made a wrong turn. And for the first time all night, he looked unsure. He looked for just a second, frightened of how unafraid I sounded. He sat there, one breath, two, and then he put the car in drive. He turned us around in that dead end and he drove me back. Didn't say a word the whole way. Took me to my actual street this time, stopped, and I was out and on the sidewalk before the wheels fully settled. I didn't run. I made myself walk to my door, slow, calm, like a woman who hadn't just been somewhere she shouldn't have come back from. I heard the cab pull away behind me. I never saw it again. No plate I'd trust myself to swear to, no name, just a marked cab that by morning I couldn't prove had ever stopped for me at all. I charge my phone now before I leave work, every single night, like other people lock a door, and I never take a ride out of trouble. Because the trouble you can see, the loud one, the wall of strangers, is almost never the one that's hunting you. It's the calm voice that pulls up beside it and offers to carry you past. I didn't get out of that car because I was lucky. I got out because I made him believe I wasn't worth the risk. But the road's still out there, and so is whoever was driving. So stay on your feet, stay in the light, and whoever offers you the easy way past the dark, let's never meet. 3 walks home, 3 people who almost didn't finish theirs. A man who walked at your shoulder and asked if you were smart. A hunter who stopped following because he already knew where the street would deliver you. And a calm voice in a marked cab that put itself right next to the only thing on the road that scared you. If you've got a stretch you can't go around, a night something walked it with you, put it in the comments. Somebody down there needs to read that they're not the only one. And if this kept you company on your own walk tonight, you know the knock. 3 of them. Stay in the light.